Hey folks, David Stewart here. It's time for a bit of bonus content. I'm going to talk about this band right now, Wintersun, one of my favorite bands of all time. They're a Finnish, maybe blackened metal band. I don't really know what genre to like put them in because they really transcend all the little subgenres of metal quite spectacularly. They're doing a little bit of a crowdfunding campaign, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a plug for that crowdfunding campaign, not for any other reason besides I think that they're offering a lot of value. But I think it's a great opportunity to talk a little bit about music business and how crowdfunding relates to the business as a whole. So if you don't know anything about Wintersun, Wintersun is a band from Finland. They've been around for quite a while, but they've only come out with 2 albums. And the reason that they've only come out with 2 albums is basically because of severe limitations in the way the music business runs now and has transformed itself over the last 15, 16 years. Their first album came out, I believe, in 2004, and I will tell you that it absolutely blew me away when it came out. It immediately became one of my favorite albums of all time, and it remains that way. That first Wintersun album, it was incredible, and it was made by 2 guys, Jari Mimpa, who did pretty much everything except for one thing, drums, which was done by Kai Hato. And let me tell you, Kai's contribution to that album was tremendous. The drumming was amazing and was definitely, that album would not have been what it was without Kai Hato behind that kit. And it sounded like so much more than 2 guys, though, who created that music. It sounded like, a massive group because of how much detail there was in this. What Jari was really good at doing as a composer, and he's the main composer of Wintersun, is being able to take simple ideas and expose them and make them effective, and also use incredible complexity vertically, a lot of polyphony and a lot of different interacting ideas that create a great effect, and contrasting those two, and also building larger songs and larger forms than what you typically see in metal that remain interesting all the way through and are just tremendously effective. He's really good at it. We waited a long time after that first album, which was just spectacular and really gained a lot of attention for the band. And we waited this long time, all the way till 2012, for them to come out with this next album, which was supposed to be called Time. And it was hyped up, and Jari was like, here it is. Here's the track listing. I'm so excited about this. And it just got delayed. Finally, it came out in 2012, but only the first half of it, Time 1, the first 40 minutes of an 80-minute album. But that album also completely blew me away. It, in terms of style, it completely exploded what Wintersun did with the first album. And by the way, Jari had built a complete band since then, and so it was not just Jari and Kai. It was Jari, Timu, Yuka, and Kai, and they did an incredible job with Time 1. And what really stood out was not just their performances; they're stellar performers, but the compositions were great, and the production was really good as well. And it, like I said, it's one of the most effective metal albums I've heard was Time 1, and the first one definitely. Both of those are like maybe top 10, both of those albums, in terms of my favorite albums. Every time I put them on, it's a really good emotional experience for me. It's very good at affecting me, and I can't say that about a lot of music, even in the metal genre, which is one of my favorite genres. So now we've had more years pass, and we haven't had Time 2, and the fans have gotten restless, and so Jari, we saw all these shots putting out by Jari of him with various band members doing stuff in the studio, and we're like, okay, well, maybe we're finally gonna get Time 2. And what they announced was not Time 2, but a completely different album called The Forest Seasons. And they didn't just announce that they were not coming out with Time 2 and coming out with a different album instead. This new album is completely finished, and they're putting it out, through a crowdfunding campaign, which no one thought would happen given Saunagate. Saunagate was this thing where they proposed they were going to build this studio, and in it was a sauna, which is a standard. That's like having a bathtub in a house in America. Sauna is pretty standard in Finland, but everyone blew up about it. They're like, Jari, you want your fans to build you a luxury estate, because in America no one has saunas. Saunas are like a super fancy thing. Not so in other cultures, guys. You have to look outside yourselves. Anyway, Saunagate happened. We thought crowdfunding's not going to happen, but here it is. They managed to get their record label Nuclear Blast to sort of cooperate on this crowdfunding idea. And I think it's really important. The reason Time 1 and Time 2 didn't really come out the way that it was expected is that they didn't have access to the production abilities that were necessary to see through the vision of Time 1 and Time 2. That they required a lot better hardware, and they required probably better studio space, more musicians. The cost was just going to be really high. And I remember Yari saying, I was really naive in thinking I could do this project myself. That was, his fault, that he didn't realize that how much it would take to actually create these albums. So he considered Time 1 an imperfect album, but I consider it really, really good. So if it's imperfect, then the perfect vision is going to be even more amazing. But he put it out because, you have to get something out, creatively. And so part of what this crowdfunding campaign is going to do is actually pay for Wintersun to build a physical studio for that band to reside in and be able to produce Time 2 and whatever other albums they want to come out with without having to basically make them in Yari's apartment and rent studio space to record various things, which can be very, very expensive, by the way. So it's a really, 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 really interesting thing to look at from a music business perspective. A couple of things that are interesting about it too is that fans, there's been a lot of hatred on the Wintersun Facebook fan page that makes you think like Wintersun has the worst fans in the world. Because you have these vocal people that are like, screw you, Yari, screw the band, just come out with it and break up. I'm so tired of you guys asking for money and this and that and the other. I'm convinced that the people who say these sorts of things have never worked in the music business and don't know what it's like and have no idea what it takes to actually produce a really, really big project of an extreme scale. And I've worked on big projects before. It's not easy to put that stuff together. And so the sort of entitlement mentality that it's like, I'm entitled to this album. You should just give it away for free. Don't ask me for 50 euros for some weird package for the crowdfunding album. Gimme. You owe it to your fans, this kind of stuff like that. It's like, no. It's really not a good way to think about this sort of thing at all, in my opinion. And so my response, I guess, to that is people are like, why can't you just tour and sell shirts the way other bands do? It's like, well, first of all, other bands actually don't make any money doing that. I did a video over a year ago, a while back, talking about how metal bands are just quitting the industry left and right, not just in metal, but in other genres. But the metal genre is special because there's a huge, very dedicated fan base that is willing to spend a lot of money in it. And if people are quitting in that genre that are well known and successful, then there's probably a big collapse happening in the music industry in general. And so there is. So a lot of people don't realize that you can tour 9 months out of the year, sell shirts, and still only take home $15,000 a year, which is far below poverty wages here in the United States. Jari Menpa lives in a tiny apartment in Finland. He doesn't own a house. He's not rich. He can't even afford his live equipment that he has. He had to go get a loan from Nuclear Blast to finish Time 1 so that he could buy a computer that was barely powerful enough to put all the VST tracks together. Right? These guys aren't rich. You're not going to strike it rich making music. They're just guys who really, really want to come out with their product. And I really do believe that because I've been in the business and I know what it's like. And I know that how hard it is to make money in this business and how it's gotten harder. And it was never that good to begin with. I can link below a Steve Albini. In fact, I probably will. An album by Steve Albini, who produced Nirvana's In Utero, because he said he felt sorry for Nirvana, that talked about how record companies basically have always been sort of screwing over the artists, that you've never been able to make money in it, that you go on tour and you end up making about as much money on tour as you'd make working at 7-Eleven, right? Which is not very much. The other thing is if you're touring 9 months out of the year, you're not going to be spending the 3 months of the year producing the album, which is what you need to get people interested enough to buy your tickets when they tour. People are not really buying albums as much. It's it's a bad situation in the music industry. So we got to think outside the box. And the crowdfunding idea is a great way to do that. And they also have a specific goal, which is to build a studio, which lets people know exactly how that money is going to end up being spent. It's going to be spent and invested in the art rather than spent on a Ferrari or something weird for like the band members to drive around in. This image that we have of like rich rock stars, that's only like the very, very tippy, tiny top percentage of people. And even they may not be as rich as you possibly think they are. It's a tough business. So I really, really commend them for thinking outside the box. Now let me tell you a little bit of what's in this package. And before I get to this, if you've never listened to Wintersun, if you've never listened to this band, go find some of their music on YouTube or somewhere else. I think all their albums are on Amazon Prime. Go listen to them. Give them a listen. The Wintersun self-titled album is absolutely incredible. It'll blow you away if you're into metal at all. Time One is absolutely incredible. It'll blow you away if you're into any kind of music. It's a really, really good album. And I fully endorse both of those albums. They're among my favorites. When and if I get around to doing like a top 50 metal albums or something, you can be assured that both of those albums will be very high on that list. So go listen to them. If you don't own any Wintersun, this crowdfunding package will actually be of great interest to you, I think. So let's take a quick look at it. So here it is. Their original goal was 150,000 euros. And they blew past it. They're at 335,000 euros, and they've added more stuff to what they're doing with the campaign. So the way that they set this up, and I think this is a really interesting way that they set it up, and obviously it's been successful despite all the naysayers calling them greedy pigs for wanting to get paid for what they do for a living. It's been very, very successful. They had a kind of a stretch goal of $250,000. They blew through that. Now they're trying to maybe get up to 375,000, and they're going to offer some more stuff for that. It's 50 euros, which is a lot, or your regional equivalent, obviously. So 50 euro is a lot of money for an album. But there's a lot that goes into this, and I think they're offering some really, really cool value, and I'm definitely thinking about how maybe I can offer similar value in the things that I do, whether it's a book or it's the album. I'm going to come out with an album this year. You guys, if you've been listening to the weird classical minimalist stuff and or the ambient stuff I've been doing, there's going to be an album of that this year. It should be fun. You've basically heard all the content. But I may do some of this stuff because I think it might be of interest to people. So it's 50 euros, but what you get is you get the album called The Forest Seasons. This album has a whopping 4 songs on it, and I know you're thinking 4 songs is not enough. But if you actually look at the track listing, these 4 songs are all very long. They're all over 10 minutes. You have 14, 12, 14, 13. So if it's a 54-minute album of 4 songs, those are epic tracks. That's what you can expect from Wintersun. On Time One, the first real song with the intro track was like 20 minutes long, 5 parts. If you include the intro track as part of the song called "Sons of Winter and Stars," and it's absolutely one of the best metal songs I've ever heard. Incredibly effective, and it's like you took a mid 18th century symphony and brought it forward in time. You have 4 distinct movements with 4 distinct approaches and tempos to them that brings the whole thing together into one really, really effective piece that encapsulates the ideas of that piece perfectly. Nothing is boring about it. There's never like a dull moment with most Wintersun songs. They just really, there's a lot of points of interest vertically and horizontally as well. The organization's always good at them. So what you get with that, you get that full-length album. You get it with a 24-bit master file, meaning you get a higher quality version than what you get with the CD. CDs are 16 bits, so this is 24 bits. It's a higher resolution, which is going to reduce really significantly the noise that is created through the dithering process. If you guys don't know what a dithering process is, basically when you mix things down, you have to sort of compress them into one little file. It's the best way I can describe it. And that introduces some noise. And the higher resolution is going to have less of that noise, and you're going to be able to hear more vertical details, especially in the high end, and especially when you have lots of different timbres of instruments going on, being able to hear them separately with a higher resolution. It does happen. I prefer listening mostly on vinyl, but I love listening to music here in this room. I have some pretty good little monitors, and now that I have my nice cyber hearing aid, I can hear things really, really clearly in here. It's a good listening experience to sit in this room and listen to this stuff. And I can actually hear 24-bit audio, and so I think for most people that have a good system, or if you don't have a good system, guys, spend a little bit of this. You can get these for like $50 on Amazon, and these actually sound really good. These are K240 Studio AKG monitoring headphones. Spend some money on a good pair of headphones, not Beats by Dre. Get AKG or Sennheiser. Those are the two brands that I really, really like. So I recommend looking at some of those, and you shouldn't spend anything less than like $25 to $50 per ear. Get a good set of headphones. I promise the investment will be worth it when you're able to hear everything in nice, crisp, beautiful fidelity. If you don't want to spend a bunch of money on near or far field monitors, minor close monitors. It also includes an MP3 mix down that you can listen to on your phone. 320 kilobytes per second is basically equivalent to CD sound. You're not really going to discern the difference there. So it's going to be a really, really good sound. 100% ass-kicking guarantee. I do love that. By the way, I'm going to link their channel. You can listen to samples of all the music that's out there for this album right now, and most of it is really good. I'm really, really excited about it. Very, very hyped about this particular album. The hype is real. It also comes with a booklet in a very, very high resolution, higher than what you'd get if you're just looking at like a little CD booklet. Like, what does it look like? I don't care that much about that, but Yari and a graphic designer made this, and it's going to be high quality, and there's going to be art in it. And so for that reason, a lot of people might be very, very interested in how the booklet looks. I certainly like to look at these sorts of images while I listen to the album, at least the first time. So that's a great extra bonus for a lot of people. The booklet is also in widescreen, as is the cover, actually. So because this is a digital package, they didn't go with like a little square cover. They're like, well, yeah, let's do it widescreen. We'll expand the visual space to make the cover to really represent what we want. That's kind of a cool idea. Just sort of thinking outside the box. Now here's the good stuff that you get, because 50 euros for an album, that's way too much. So you also get an instrumental track, which is a karaoke version. So it's just the instruments, no vocals. And you also get the isolated tracks. And to me, the isolated tracks is worth the 50 euros. If you are a student of music at all, if you're looking to improve your composition game or just understand better what goes into the production and composition of a really, really high quality, dense, and complex metal album, this is going to be worth it. So you can hear just the drums by themselves, which I'm very interested in because I think Kai Hato's drumming is absolutely superb, and I really, really like to dig into the stuff that he does. He's actually very creative, despite the fact that he's like a super fast drummer. There's a lot of stuff that he does that I think is great. So you can listen to just the rhythm guitars, just the drums, just the vocals, just the orchestra tracks, or any combination thereof. And that, to me, is an extremely cool thought. This is the big part that I think a lot of people are overlooking with this particular. I should point it this way. You can say it's over there. Right. This is the big thing that people really need to think about. They're really thinking outside the box, and that's a lot of value. Very few people are willing to release their studio tracks and let people hear exactly each little individual track. So there's a huge amount of value for anyone that's interested in composition. Absolutely, absolutely killer that we get to get this along with the album and really get to understand what went into making the album. Here's the other thing that you get, guys. So if you've never heard Wintersun before, you actually are going to get with this package all Wintersun and the best versions of all Wintersun that you can offer. So you get this, what they call the Time 1.5 remaster. So the remaster of Time 1, which I actually thought had great production quality, but we'll get a 24-bit wave remastering of it. The big complaint when Time 1 came out is that it was too quiet. And I can make a video specifically about the Loudnosaurus some other time, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that people are listening to this kind of music on really weak systems that don't have a lot of headroom. So they crank their iPhone all the way up and they're like, the album's kind of quiet, rather than listening to it on a big booming system like what I did when I first heard it and was blown away by it. So I liked the production on the original Time 1, but we'll get to hear what a remaster sounds like. Extra polish, extra EQ, and of course, higher resolution files. Can't go wrong with that. You also get their first album, Wintersun, the original Wintersun, a remastered version of it where they're going to have more dynamic more dynamic variation. I think Yari said it was going to be similar to the Black Album, which is, by the way, a perfectly produced album, and with an extra track, the original track listing that they originally wanted to do when they were recording the album, which is going to be good too, and an intro that has never been heard on their regular albums. So it's going to be like the best version of this. The original version was kind of Loudness Wars-ish. It wasn't as bad as some other Nuclear Blast albums, but it was pretty loud. But despite the fact that it was pretty loud, it had a really, really good impact, and you could hear a lot of the details. I'm looking forward to hearing even more details, and I'm looking forward to how this one will sound. Then you also get a live album with that. So if you're interested in live albums, this is a live album. Has a lot of their classic songs. I don't think it has any of the stuff from Time 2, which you can find here and there on YouTube if you want a little bit of a look into what Time 2 may end up sounding like. They have played those songs live, even though they haven't released them on an album. You also get an acoustic version of the fourth song on Forest Seasons, which is the winter song. They have a song for each season, and that's a long song. So that's a 12 minutes of acoustic version of Metal, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what exactly they did with that. It's a cool idea, though. Now, because they were so successful, they decided to add into this an additional stretch goal, which maybe we'll get, maybe we'll not. We won't. I have a feeling that we're going to get it. And that is, you're going to get the isolated tracks from Time 1. Another, in my opinion, €50 value to hear each little individual instrumental track and how they put it all together, so that you can understand more fully what went into the composition process and what went into the production process and each individual little performance. Again, I'm particularly interested in the drums because I really like what Kai Hato does, and I'm also interested in hearing the orchestra tracks without the guitars to sort of hear, what VSTs and how Yari approached actually producing those orchestra elements. And then you're also going to get the karaoke version of the acoustic version of Loneliness, aka Winter, and you're going to get some wallpapers. These wallpapers are not 21 by 9, so if Yari, you're watching, I want 21 by 9 wallpapers. So if we get it to 375,000, we're going to get that. And if we get that, then I'll send Yari a PM. I'll be like, you got to make me some 21 by 9s because I use an ultra wide monitor because I'm ultra wide. So that's what you get with this. The isolated tracks is really, really, really the interesting and cool part about this. This is something that I haven't seen anyone else do, and it makes me think like what I should do for my album. Like maybe I should give people the isolated track version, so you can hear just the lute part to my songs. You can hear me just doing the lute. You can hear me just doing the lead guitar. You can hear my albums are not quite made the same way, so there's a little bit. I have some instruments that only show up for like 1 second. You can hear just my orchestra tracks. So it's an idea. It's an idea that I've thought about doing. What's kind of cool about this, if we go back to the business part of this, all this stuff for Wintersun is of a very, very low cost for them to make, but is of a high consumer value. So for €50, I actually do think you're getting €50 of value in this because you're getting 3 full albums, higher quality than what you'd get with a CD, along with a bunch of other stuff that you just can't get through a physical copy. So I really do think it is worth the €50. I'm not just saying that. I'm not trying to kiss Wintersun's butt. I really, really do believe this. They are, some of my favorite composers that are out there, some of my favorite performers and composers that are out there in metal. I really, really am looking forward to this project personally. And yes, I have already pre-ordered it. I have already done the crowdfunding to get my copy or, get my digital files when they're released in July. But what's kind of cool about this, besides just the fact that they have a goal, they're going to make a studio. They're releasing some things you can't really do, is that it's low cost for them, but high value for us. It doesn't cost that much to render your project with just the rhythm guitar, for instance. You can do just a rhythm guitar mix down and render just that much with your DAW program with your DAW. And you could do just the drum tracks and just render that. You can do just the orchestra tracks, just render that. That's actually of a very, very low cost, but of a very, very high value to somebody who wants to understand more fully all the individual elements within that. So it's something that could be very, very valuable for a student of music or anyone that's interested in metal, but it's really, really low cost. Likewise, having this project or this package be all digital means that you don't have to deal with the overhead of having CDs printed or anything like that in order to deliver on the final product. Because it's all digital, regardless of how few or how many people are hitting that, it's the same cost to you to produce the product. The only cost becomes like the distribution of like downloading it, paying for bandwidth and stuff like that, which is really not going to be very much, nothing compared to like pressing vinyls or making CDs or that kind of stuff. So it's a really, really awesome idea, I think, is to get this from the band in a format that doesn't cost the band a whole lot of input capital other than their time and obviously all the effort that went into producing the album and the equipment and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't require them to like mint a bunch of CDs and hope people buy them or print a bunch of t-shirts and hope people buy them. It's low cost for them and it's high value for the consumer. And so that is something that we as business people should probably think about in the future, is like, how can we offer a lot of value to consumers and sort of keep the cost down for us? Because the business is rough. You know, the business is rough, and it's rough in the publishing business too, because I'm in that business. It's rough all around because consumers have so many options, and there's a lot of people who just aren't willing to pay for content anymore. So it's really, really good to look outside the box, and also to develop a relationship with fans to where they're expecting things that are a little bit different way of delivering it, rather than we put out the album, you buy it maybe from Amazon, maybe you buy a t-shirt from us, maybe you see us from tour, and then we go home and we sit in our one-bedroom apartment because even with all that effort, the costs associated with it are so high that we don't get to take home that much money after taxes and that kind of stuff. So thinking outside the box, I think this crowdfunding thing is going to be the future. I'm hoping more bands will think along the same lines that I like, and we'll think outside the normal way of just like, you know, get a record contract, record the album, put it out, hope people buy it, go on tour for 9 months, and while you're on tour, you can't be working on anything new, you can't be productive at all, it costs a bunch of money, you're away from your family. Like it kind of sucks to be a modern musician. So anyway, I guess that's about all I have to say about that. Please let me know what you think down below about the crowdfunding stuff and what you think about how it's going to turn out, and whether you're going to check out Wintersun, and if you don't own any Wintersun yet, maybe buy this particular package and get a little bit of value out of it. So let me know what you think, and I will see you all next time.